they're all great players, and some of them have made it multiple times. Dr. Hippie's been around for a while now, and done very well in HCT in the past too. But okay, why don't we talk about HCT? So one of the biggest topics that we wanted to do today is really have a closer look at the current structure of the Hearthstone Championship Tour. And the whole point of this is really to go through just any issues that there currently are. A lot of people have vocalized them, just over the last couple months. Last call is coming up. RDU is going to be, participating in that, and really wanted to talk about just, I guess, how difficult it is to even get to that point. Zalae was even just congratulating him and you're just making it, because it's so hard. It's like a year-long thing, and you get into last call. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down into different parts. First thing we're going to do is just talk about the issues, talk about the structure, then go through like the qualification process, and that includes ladders and open tournaments, go through the prizes, and then we'll finish with last call. Then after that, we'll give some ideas on how to improve it, just any ideas, and hopefully you guys will participate in that discussion too. But yeah, so let's start off. So structure wise, guys, for HCT, when they announced it back in January, it sounded really cool because there was basically 3 seasons. Each of the 3 regions would have their own championship, a tournament for that, preliminaries and championship, and then there would be like $100,000 prize pool for each one of those too, which was like, oh wow, that's amazing, right? So overall, like, how have you guys felt about just this whole structure, just having it broken down into 3 seasons, and just having it more like more like something like StarCraft does with WCS?
I think it's better than the year prior. Would you agree with that, RDU?
Yeah, definitely.
So
But
it's an improvement, right? But there's room to grow still. Things can get better. I think there's some serious problems in that it's too much of a grind, and I hate to say that, but it's too expensive in terms of time to try to compete and try and qualify for the world championship. And you see a lot of great players not even attempting to, because they do the math, they look at how much their time is worth, they look at what you have to do to qualify, and they're like, you know what, this is a gamble that's not good for me. I can do better things with my time, and that's sad. I want to see all the best players trying to qualify for the world championship every year.
yeah, like the way they structured the World Championship is like they wanted to guarantee that 16 really good players make it to BlizzCon, and like by just cutting a lot of players, cutting the bulk at first with just the requirement of getting to prelims being top 128. Then they added the tavern thing. I don't think that's a good idea at all. It's only like great because of like they push the idea that anybody can like become pro and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that later, why it's not really that good in my point of view. And then they cut it down for like a double elimination, which I don't think that's optimal either, because I said that Swiss is usually way more optimal. And afterwards they have the 8-man tournament, and you have to win it to qualify to BlizzCon. So like they kind of guarantee that the people that make it to BlizzCon are like really good players overall. And that's not really great for the players. It's great for the viewers, it's great for Blizzard, but for the individual player, they might not have enough incentive to try, because the chance of making it is slim. Yes, somebody good will make it, but probably not the best, and probably not you.
Okay, so
as a player,
all right. So let's not talk about just BlizzCon, because that's the final goal, right? Like everything is kind of a means to an end for BlizzCon.
Yeah.
But if we like talk about each individual season, so like season 1, right? Just the winter championship, I believe it was. Like, do you like that? Do you like basically there's just like this mini season, and I think the point of kind of breaking it down like that is to just create these more important moments. Like, instead of just like, okay, all of this stuff like month to month, we're just like kind of waiting around until November comes around, and then or October or September comes around when you guys finally make it into like last call and qualifications or whatnot. And then that's kind of like last year, right? Everybody made it into that last tournament, and then they just kind of fed into BlizzCon at the last minute. So now they're trying to create these at least 3 big moments before BlizzCon. How do you like that?
I really like the idea of a circuit. I really think players should have something to like look up to every month or every 2 months, and like the circuit kind of accomplishes it. I'm not really sure if I like the idea of like a player being able to qualify for BlizzCon that early into the year. That's like my issue with it. I think that you should like gather points.
Okay.
I think that you should gather like a lot of points just for winning the prelims, like way more than like you would normally can, so that you're almost qualified. And then they should just like invite the people with the most points to BlizzCon. Something like that. It's
Okay.
kind of like
I mean,
the
'cause-
way in the way like look at League of Legends, like the way they have the LCS is like even if you win one of the seasons, you don't automatically qualify if you like
It's not guaranteed. Yeah.
if you play super badly and like just lose and like relegated the second one, you're not gonna go to Worlds even if you won the first one. Then something like that. It's not like just a given, because then the player that qualifies in the winter might just like start not trying that much.
Yeah, there's
until
no
Blizz, and
incentive.
then
There's no incentive for them to
Keep them
play.
working.
Yeah.
Dangle that carrot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the carrot is prize money. Like maybe they'll keep playing for that. But to your point, yeah, that people would lose incentive to continue playing in the rest of the seasons. Zalae, what do you think? What do you like the seasonal type of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have consistent access to tournaments, and to have a reason to keep playing the whole time. I have to agree with what already you said. I don't really have a whole lot to add to it.
Oh, by the way, one extra thing that I missed, like the worst idea is to let the people that qualify, like if you qualify people directly, okay, but do not let them play in the other ones.
In the
Like,
other ones, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
It's
little
just like-
silly.
That's
Yeah.
so bad, because like you can have like let's say like Thais plays the last one and he faces me, like people are gonna like comment about that. And first of all, let's say he beats me, like he's not gonna feel good about beating me. He cannot concede the game because then it's win trading. Like that's just a plain bad idea. Same with Naiman. Same with like Amnesiac that just like beat some people while he's already qualified, and then he like also like did that drama with
Well, I
like
mean,
dropping out.
Right.
You could technically let them participate, but move their points downwards. I
Yeah.
guess like one of the things.
As soon as you let him,
You
No.
can't do that. You
Yeah,
can't do
you
that.
cannot do that. Just if you qualify, no, you shouldn't play afterwards.
Yeah. Both of those
Sure.
scenarios.
I mean,
are
the
not
thing is
great.
like there's this storyline aspect to it where you have this guy who just goes in every cup and just wins. Like that storyline aspect.
Yeah.
If you prevent from people from entering, you're kind of forcefully removing people from the competitive scene, like on camera, quote unquote. So you're forcing them out of the spotlight.
Especially
Okay,
if we had,
so-
they'd be okay being in it, right?
Especially if we had a
Okay.
ranking system too. If we actually had a ranking system, all of those matches would count
Sure.
towards it.
Right,
So,
that would actually
yeah.
matter a lot. So I don't know if like removing them is the solution, but maybe like if they finish first place, then just take those points and give it like just
Yeah,
beat
it
the
should
first,
just have
second,
been an
third.
overall point. But they want to have this
I don't know.
like summer champion and a spring champion and a winter champion being at BlizzCon type of feel, right? So, Artie, you're about to jump
gonna
in
say
with the
something?
comment? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say that like the reasoning that you said that they should like keep the players is that they can like win it twice or like get into the final twice.
Yeah.
Like the chance of that happening is like way smaller compared to the chance of them facing somebody that they know, and then you put them in a super awkward situation, and you might even create more drama afterwards, depending on who the player is and what happens in the specific match.
Right, which is why like the patch on top of that would be that even if the guy wins, he doesn't get additional points added to his roster. Instead, like first, second, and third place go to the people who are say second, third, and fourth in the event, because he's already qualified. He doesn't get those points.
Yeah.
So the next three dudes that did the best in the event, they get the next best score. I don't know if that makes sense.
It gets
but
a little
the
bit.
idea is like
weird,
you don't
though.
force but
yeah.
you don't force them out of the scene, because that probably would just be very feel bad.
I don't know. It's just one tournament,
Yeah.
and also people are saying
Maybe
that they
not.
can play for money. Like first of all, just very few
I
people
guess
get
so,
money, and like you get enough money if you qualify to BlizzCon. Trust me. So
well, if you win one of the championships, you have a huge.
You don't need a
obviously, yeah.
championship. You just need,
Huge.
you just need to qualify, and you'll get money rained upon you.
Well, I mean, the
Yeah.
prize for one
By
of the
the sponsor
championships is a
gods.
lot. Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
a
it's
lot.
20K.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a lot. It is a lot, but you still shouldn't let the player win it twice. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
definitely against that.
it's two different models. I think letting them play it really falls into more the total, like a point system that feeds into BlizzCon, which you were saying.
Yeah.
And not letting them play actually would match what they currently have, but they didn't want to do that either. So it's unfortunately it's not either of them, and they should have probably picked one that would work for having somebody like Tice possibly winning multiple ones, like after winning the first one, because winning multiple ones is a huge storyline. And it's good. It's good to have like a favorite coming into BlizzCon, and it's good to talk about somebody who's having an awesome year too. So yeah. So anyways, that's one issue I think. Yeah, with the structure and at least the restrictions when it comes to the structure. But overall, you like the regions being split like a part two, and not having maybe more of a single type of championship each season with the regions. Like instead of having a champion from each one, having them eventually compete. Just cross region even within the season.
I don't know, like there's like a lot of bad parts about this thing too. Like for example, from Europe, I feel that it's like way harder to qualify, right? Than from like NA, Asia,
Oh
or
boy. Here we go.
China. And like,
Shots fired.
okay. First of all, China plays wild to qualify. They play wild.
Oh, I didn't realize that. They play
They
wild
do not play
to
standard.
qualify?
They play
Holy
wild.
Shit.
You don't have
Oh my
to.
god. Wow, okay.
You don't have to play
That's
wild.
crazy.
I think it's
Gotta go
like
to China.
yeah. But I mean, the thing is, like,
I didn't even
the
realize
players
that.
are so
Seriously?
few, it's actually probably more difficult. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like, the amount of people in that scene is just so wide. Like, you talk about there being too many people for the Open Cups here. I mean, China's just. I mean, it's brutal if the because they're playing the same game, right?
It is.
They
it
still
is,
get
and it's-
yogged. They just get yogged 7-5, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
100 more times than you do, in order to get the same spot. So
Yeah, but they
Well,
play wild too. Like, and then they play standard at BlizzCon. So like, that's pretty weird. And also like Asia has like a totally different system. They have like some sort of Swiss, and then they invite the winner of like OG, and then they invite the winner with the most points. And then just NA and Europe have the same system. So it's just like a total mix-up that shouldn't have been. And also, I think they could distribute the points according to like the number of players. Like, just give Europe like 6 spots, give NA like 3 or something.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they should like
that's-
distribute them differently, not 4-4-4-4. But like, if you make it as an European, you have definitely a higher EV of getting more money
sure.
Okay. Yeah.
than some other region. That's what I think. Like, I'm biased, but yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
shoot me, kill me.
Okay, so the regions, I mean, guys, think about all that. I mean, it'd be really, really hard for them just to have like a cross-regional, kind of competition. I think during these times without just isolating people, right? Like, you have to have some people that elevate themselves to even be like representatives for that region, and battling in whatever cross-region type of competition. But okay, I think I'm okay with that too. Just like, at least with the current system, just having the 3 regions be split, and then just not have them compete against each other. Just have them, I guess, be 3 different types of champion each season. Okay, why don't we move on to qualifying? Okay, so we've already touched a little bit on. We've talked about some open tournaments too, but generally, let's talk about ladder first. How do you guys like the whole point system with the ladder right now? Or do you like
It's
just the
pretty
general
good.
concept?
I think I don't enjoy the end of season ladder grind, but I think it's like the closest thing we have to in client qualification for BlizzCon, right? In client tournament mode or whatever, right? I think Jasayan runs Watchstone, where at the end of relevant months he'll like spectate people who are trying to finish. In the
Those
top
are awesome,
legend.
dude.
Very exciting. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of top 100 legend ladder finishes being a big part of qualifying for BlizzCon. I think that's a good thing. Even though I don't enjoy the grind myself, I actually dislike that stress. I dislike how much the last day matters. I hate how the system works with the last 10 minutes being exploitable. You can queue up, and then if you're winning, you try and win quickly, and if you're losing, you try and play slowly so that the game doesn't count. I think that's pretty terrible. But generally speaking, I think it's really good for Hearthstone and for competitive Hearthstone for everybody that you can win points to qualify for BlizzCon by playing on the ladder.
Okay.
Or in the client, at least. Whether or not that ever changes to another type of incline system, as long as you can play from home and, I guess further your own likelihood of getting to BlizzCon, right?
Yeah.
That's why we need the tournament mode, kind of.
Yeah,
That's
it'd be
it is.
easy to execute it. Well, actually, Artie, what are your thoughts on the ladder first?
Oh, ladder, like same as Zalae. I think that it's like flawed in like a lot of ways, but it's like okay-ish. Like pro players will find like different ways to like get advantages, like camping or like playing in the last minutes, or they will try to like just focus like super intensively while playing like some specific like sample size of games, and they'll try to like they'll manage to get finishes, but it's like extra work that probably could have be made cleaner. But Hearthstone has like a lot of problems that I would rather have fixed before that.
Well, so here's a question: like, if you don't like the last minute grind or just this craziness of the last day of the season, would you prefer that everybody has to try hard the entire month? Like, would you prefer a system where people have to try to get top 10 legend or top 100 legend each and every week? Or is that worse?
That's
Is
kind
that
of weird
too much of a
because,
grind?
like, it's just well, like top X legend is just very different at the start of the month than the end.
Then the
I would like
yeah.
a system where the ladder doesn't reset every month. That would definitely
That'd be
be
the best way, I think. Or at
I don't
least
see
it's
a reason for
longer.
the ladder to reset. I mean, I guess there's reasons financially for Blizzard for it to reset every month so that people are like keep logging in or something. But
Yeah.
for me, it's like, shouldn't the ladder reset once we get new cards and the format changes? Like, I would like to see every 3 months or every 4 months we get new cards, the format changes, maybe there's a balance patch, something like that, and that's when you reset the ladder.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
100%.
Oh, I never really thought
I'm
about
behind that,
actually.
so,
That makes a
yeah.
lot of sense. Being the frequency, because it just matches like just a change in the meta, right? Like it's almost like getting replaced basically in these placement matches, right? Like in another game.
Well, yeah, that's
Okay,
kind of
that
the
makes
point right now.
sense.
It's like the only
Yeah.
reason they're resetting every month is because they want like a calculation of points to be done, and then they move on to the next month. But the issue with that is, like, exactly, like there's no feeling of, I guess, there's no difference that is between two seasons within the same metagame. Like, there's just none. And sometimes, like, the expansion comes out mid-season, and suddenly everything you thought you'd understood about the metagame changes, and then you have to readapt right away. Whereas, like especially when they force you to restart at rank 15, right? I can't even imagine what it is like to have to do that every season. Like I'll get to legend and then I get frustrated to be brought back, but to me it doesn't matter much because I'm not gunning for the top 100.
Yeah,
But the
top 100's
players
a
that
different
do,
thing, yeah.
it's like, why am I even wasting my time climbing here when I need to get to the top? And for now, it doesn't matter. It'll only matter at the end of the month, but I still have to make that grind happen. So I feel like an average of points, as you mentioned, right? Like over a longer season would probably be better.
I'd actually the concept of using the ladder as a way to qualify for something, or I guess whatever point system, I think is a good one. I remember it back in StarCraft 2, like when they had Grandmaster actually matter for some of the tournaments, it was like a big deal. So like that general principle I think is good for Hearthstone. I'd rather see it be a ladder actually be just the prereq to getting into a qualification tournament, like some kind of HCT, tournament that gets you points instead. So there's actually just like something that feeds into it. And that's based on, whatever rankings that you have. Like, I mean, like as you're going through the month, it can qualify you for the tournament, right? So if you actually reach top 50 at one point, you qualify for that tournament. That happens at the end of the month or happens at the end of the whatever season it is. And so, you can have incentive to like be pushing the ladder in the early stages or the latter stages. It doesn't emphasize just one day like it does right now. So I'd actually prefer something like that. Obviously, it'd be easier if there was like an in-game, just tournament, just tournament mode in the game, so they can automatically run these tournaments for them. But even now, they could run them themselves. Like they could manually run these tournaments with all the players that had gotten top 50 at some point. And do it that way. It might be a lot of people, but I feel like that's a better way to use the ladder.
I mean, the big problem, like the problem they have, and they've mentioned that before, is they don't want this to, like when you log on and you open the client, right? They don't want you to go in that tournament area where you're sitting in it until people, like your next opponent is ready to play.
Sure.
They don't want you to sit around and wait. But the issue is with that type of tournament system, that's a lot more likely to happen. And you have to coordinate, both players being ready at the exact same time. And if they're both doing that without being, at an event or something along those lines, there needs to be an admin. And if it's done automatically, then some dude can wait 35 minutes and just those are it's kind of
okay.
Yes. Problem.
Yeah. So I mean, even if it's not in the client, just run it separately.
I'm okay with it.
Run it separately.
They don't like it.
Just run it as a separate tournament. But
Can I talk about this issue too?
Yeah,
like
sure.
I have some some good inputs that I would
Good.
like to give.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
Like, okay, so first of all, I agree with your thing. Like, I think that ideally Hearthstone should have a tournament mode, and ladder should only qualify you for tournaments. I don't think ladder should give you any points because that would eliminate the issue with camping, playing the last day, whatever.
Yeah.
So you should have a specific rank on ladder to play a specific tournament that gives a specific amount of points and is after a specific number of days. Now you're saying the biggest issue with tournament mode is that people are going to wait too much. But the thing is that a lot of people play open cups, and in open cups you have to wait too much too. You also have to contact admins. You can just add some specific thing to the tournament mode that if the player is AFK for whatever, when his opponent clicks ready, he gets automatically kicked. Yeah. And you have to invest a lot of hours to play the tournament. But if Blizzard to incentivize people to play one tournament per week or something, I'm pretty sure a lot of players would play it. Currently, a lot of people play open cups. They're almost always full when they are. And you don't need everybody to play open cups, but if they try it once, if they have some free hours, yeah, it's not going to be a feature anyways for the casual player. That's the issue.
Yeah.
It's only going to be for the
that's why
people
they
that
don't
want
want
to
to
play
add
the
it
game.
within the game.
Well,
They
it's
have
a
to
choice. It's a choice. I mean, the casual player
Yeah,
could
it's a-
play it if they
yeah.
want, just to experience this competitive environment. And they might not know anything about HCT or even tournaments, but this is kind of like a little very small competitive sandbox for them too, which is kind of cool.
I would
Yeah,
rather. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah, okay. I said that this would be like the only thing that Blizzard needs to do to show that they care about the competitive players, so the people that want to be competitive. And for God's sake, it's a 1v1 game. Everybody wants to be competitive once in a while. Nobody's playing to lose.
Dude,
Some people like
I
You have not
totally
met
agree with you,
average
baby.
Hearthstone player though.
Yeah. It's like this game is a competitive game by nature.
Like,
so it's
I get mentally triggered when I read Reddit sometimes, and like people
Yeah.
say they don't care about they don't care about competitive players, they only care about casual players. And I have friends in real life that play the game casually, and like they don't like to lose. They also want to win. They also want to be challenged. They want to play the puzzle. If they play one game per week, they want it to be a challenging game. They want to be a puzzle. They don't want to like just smash the things on curve and then like start dancing when Yogg-Saron comes out.
yeah.
That's
There's
the thing.
I think there's a misuse of the word casual in terms
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
There are
It's a
different
very
degrees
big
of
one.
casual.
No, because we're using like two different meanings of casual. Because
Yep.
generally casual, and I already talked to Zalae. Zalae and Noxious are just like, oh god, he's talking about this shit again, guys. Oh my
No,
god.
but it is true.
But it's like no, but the word casual in other games means like somebody who can't play the game very much. But that doesn't mean they're like really passionate about the game. They just don't have like a lot of time to play the game.
Yeah.
And that that doesn't really apply to Hearthstone. I think the word casual is applied to people who are just like lower rank, and they call that casual. But you're lower rank for a lot of different reasons. Like you could just not be good at the game. You might not have the cards. You might not be able to afford the cards, but you play whatever cards you have as hardcore as you can possibly play them. So there's a lot of like different ways to play. But in the end, I totally agree with you that like everybody plays Hearthstone to win. Like, or at least a large percentage of people. It's only like content makers and streamers sometimes will just fuck around and just like literally like not try to win, but create these just silly scenarios. That is not the average case for mobile users or any of those people. They're playing the game because it's designed to be a competitive game. So I'm glad you actually brought that up because it's a big thing. Okay, so yeah, I guess we just talked about ladder. Why don't we talk about the open tournaments and getting points there? Because Noblord posted something in on Reddit like a while back now. It's probably like a month and a half ago. I'll post it in the chat here. He basically talked about how he explained the system and he just admitted that he was basically abusing the system in terms of just getting as many open tournament points as possible. So he like literally played every single one that he could possibly play. And that was a lot of time investment, but that was easier than some of the other routes that some of the players were taking. So if you guys that might not be familiar with it, you can get these points towards BlizzCon by playing these Blizzard sanctioned events. They're run by other people, but they get approved by Blizzard to be an HCT event. These can also be at fireside gatherings too, like the Tavern Heroes. If you've heard that term, is basically these open tournaments at fireside gatherings. So lots of players play it. A lot of people are getting points that way and trying to qualify for things like Last Call and whatnot. And yeah, why don't you guys talk about that? Do you like the current way that they're doing it? Do you just like generally having open tournaments give you points?
No,
I like generally open tournaments giving points, but I have a huge problem with the way it is right now, which is that it requires a ridiculous amount of time. It just like people who make a living from Hearthstone look at what it costs them to try and qualify for the World Championship, and a big part of it is open cups. And it's just you are playing for way less than minimum wage. You're playing for like pennies and on the hour if you're like a really good player. That's how much. That's like how much it's ridiculously expensive in terms of time. Like the idea is anyone can play in these tournaments, anyone can compete. It's so fair, anyone can do it.
Right.
But it's not. I can't do it. It's expensive. It costs me a lot of time, and time is money, and it's not worth it. I want it to be worth it. I didn't get into Hearthstone for the women and the money and the fame and the glory.
What, you didn't?
I like competing. I want to compete. But I look at this system and it's like, oh my god, this is too much time spent earning pennies. I can't do this in good conscience. It's a bad life decision. And
Okay.
so I think
so
it's
you're saying it's not. I mean,
how many
just,
open cups are available right now. I think having open cups is great, but it should be like 2 open cups a week or something, so that I can play in them and not feel like I'm wasting my life.
right. Okay. And again, like this is emphasizing again, like somebody that has more time available to them will have an advantage over somebody like you, just because they can just grind out these tournaments every single day, maybe twice a day.
it's not
Some
as
people
though
play
he-
twice a day, which is like
No, it's
crazy.
a different story. Like, it's not that he doesn't have the time; is that spending that time doing that
Or it's
is
not worth the
never
time.
worth
Yeah,
it.
it's not worth it.
Right? Like,
Sorry.
that's a
Yeah.
huge difference because it's not somebody who says, "Oh, I absolutely refuse to spend time doing this. I
Yeah.
would rather not play the game." That's not at all what it is. It's just the likelihood that the more skilled player gets away with a win at the end of all these open cups, and the prevalence of winning one of them is not necessarily worth
Okay.
the time you put into it, because you still have to do the next one and the next one and the next one to make your first one like even relevant at all, which is kind of the problem.
Yeah, you
is
have
you
to keep
never
up.
really end it. It never stops,
Right.
basically.
Artie, your thoughts on it?
I also think the same way as like Zalae. I would like to see like 1 or 2 open cups per week per region, and I would like to see them again in like the tournament mode in game, with like requiring you to like do well on ladder. Like you do well on ladder, you qualify for those 1 or 2 open cups per week, or one per week should be probably okay. Maybe two. And then like you play those tournaments and maybe even get like awarded the prizes. Like I'm not sure if it's allowed like legally to give for Blizzard to like give you money.
Card backs, whatever, just something.
But they can
right?
give you like gold or like some
Yeah.
prize that you, if you do well.
Sure.
Also like BlizzCon points, like maybe, and that could be like some really cool thing to have like the in-game tournaments. And the current system, I really don't like it. Like you rely on third parties to do their thing, and that usually can like lead to a lot of messy things. And there's like way too many open cups again. They should be like way less and more important. And
It's-
yeah. One of the things is that they have like 0 prize pool or $5 prize pool, and like you only play for
$5.
points.
Yeah.
No, you
The thing
play
is,
for
like-
points because Blizzard is giving them a license to actually be like point givers.
Yeah,
like
an
that
HCT.
event can give points, and ultimately Blizzard control who is able to give you points when you win, right? But they don't have
Yeah.
any standards as far as how much these guys have to pay out. So they just give this license to everyone who wants it. I think the only difference is like for say a large prize pool, you have to get a major license.
But
Well,
that's
you have
like
to get-
way
you have to
like
get
that's
a
like
license.
10K plus.
Yeah,
That's
you have to
not
get a
way
license
plus.
from them.
But the
You have
thing
to
is,
actually
we're
get, like,
assuming
yeah.
you even have a prize at that point, because a lot of open cups just, all right, guys, we want to be a part of the circuit. We're running this. Can we give away points? Yeah, sure, do so. It's just
Well, if you
what?
follow these guidelines, as long as you have these things in place,
Right.
then it can.
Yeah,
be
and then the
approved
place
as-
the place that want to like go to BlizzCon feel forced to play the $0 cups, and then
Exactly,
they like
yeah.
they like get smashed if they don't get rewarded for those $0 cups, because
Okay.
like you pay the cups for points. So like you pay the cups for a chance at points, and then the points like a chance at like qualifying, and then qualifying is a chance at money. So like the chance of you actually like transferring your time into money is like
Yeah.
super slim compared to like other tournaments like invitationals and and streaming especially. So that's why when I play those, I say to like also stream them to like combine the two things and like give myself some.
right. Might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so would
But,
you
like-
would you guys be more open to it if they did provide, I don't know, like a $500 prize pool or a $200 prize pool? The problem with some of these Tavern Hero tournaments, I think, they're just small. We're talking about fireside gatherings, right? Like a lot.
But that's the problem. A fireside shouldn't give you points. Like that's the thing with these types of events. For instance, is I don't have anything against like grassroots Hearthstone. I would love if
I love
Hearthstone were even more grassroots,
Yeah.
right? Like Friday Night Magic is what brought me in the game and just kept me going back. And eventually, I still just love playing with friends, even though it wasn't in any way, shape, or form tracked by, let's say, every single system that MTG had. But for Hearthstone, there's nothing bad about that. The issue is when the competitive circuit is, I wouldn't say not controlled or not monitored, but just kind of let out for people to figure out. And Blizzard doesn't really have they have a say, but they're not using it, right? They could definitely, refuse people from having that license, but they don't. So they're putting their esports title
well,
in the hands of someone else than themselves in a weird way.
they are
Yeah,
letting the other
put it that way.
organizers organize it for them because quite honestly, they don't have the resources to organize these local
Oh.
events all over the world. I mean,
Sure,
right.
okay,
So
yeah.
I mean, like I have a fireside gathering. Like, so one of the things that I've chosen specifically is not to do an HCT event here, just because. For one, I want the tournament just to be fun. You know, I just had that relaxed atmosphere, not to be this crazy strict thing. But also, you know, Blizzard does. You know, remember the early stages of these open tournaments where like some people abuse them and totally fixed the tournament. You know,
Yeah.
like they literally gave themselves points
Yeah.
and stuff. So
Yep.
they're beyond that at least. They've, you know, they definitely oversee it a lot, you know, more than they did when they first started. But they don't have the resources, so they do have to lever at least work with some of these people that are doing firesides to kind of pull it off. My issue is that there's a big difference, and I think the point distribution is different than from like, you know, some open tournament that has a lot of players versus, I don't know, some fireside gathering has 8 people. I think the point distribution is different. I could be wrong. I mean, maybe somebody can let me know in chat. But
Well, between majors and smaller events, or what?
No, there's like you have to have 32 players for
Yeah.
like smaller events.
For smaller events, yeah.
okay, so
You
at
have
least
32,
32
they
players.
give-
Okay.
Yeah, they give like 1, 2, and 3 points.
Okay, so
And-
it's not that much. It's not that many, but I guess.
But you need to like just keep stacking them. So
So you kind
you
of
need
go
to-
to them.
if you
anyways.
do one, you have to do 25. Like that's the issue. Is there's no
do
there's
one,
no
you do
half
25.
measure. If
Yeah.
you do one Open Cup and you want to qualify through those points, you have to do all of them. That's like an alternative route you can take, but it's
Yeah,
I mean the odds just
yeah, the odds are tough. It's just there's just too many opportunities to get points. Like the points should just be, I guess, more focused into, like you said, 2 times a week or something like that, where you have opportunities to get some of these points, and it's okay. Is it okay to have more something like points from these tournaments be equivalent to maybe something that you're going to get through the ladder right now, or do you
Yeah,
think it should have
probably.
been weighted more like the other way? Like I guess should there be more weight into these tournaments versus like ladder?
There should be like 0-8 in ladder, I think. Like I think
Yeah.
ladder
Yeah.
should only qualify you to play the
Sure.
tournaments.
Okay.
That's like the only way to fix it. Like that's the literally only way
Yes.
to fix the ladder issue.
Hmm.
Is like just not give anything for ladder, just like
Yeah,
use
have them
ladder
qualify,
to,
like we were
qualify.
saying earlier.
Yeah.
But I think that's like a bit far off
That's
from
a
what
bit-
Yeah,
we're realistic.
I think so too. Just like a band-aid fix might be, I don't know, just cutting down on some of these open tournaments, or at least having the restriction maybe be higher. Like, you know, like you can't have an open tournament unless these things, like maybe you have to have prize money. Maybe you have to have at least $200 or $300 prize money or something like that.
I think you should have like
I don't
500
think it has to
at
be
least.
about money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's good to have just open tournaments. Everyone can play. Everyone can qualify. But it just can't be this accessible where there's 4 open tournaments every day that you could play in.
Yeah.
Like
without
oh my
any
God.
qualifications. Like there's no reason why like anybody can go in, and that basically means that your spot as a competitive player might be taken by Joe Blow number 17, who's ranked 17.
Right.
And you know he's allowed to compete unless you have some tournaments did require legend for you to get in, and they required top 100 even. Some of them were like very narrow, but that's old. Since then, I think most tournaments are open as it gets. And one of the I feel like Blizzard, if they are reluctant to add a tournament mode in game, I guess like in their client, is maybe like like an external tool that you can find on BattleNet that is basically concentrating all their esports platform, or it's like a tournament system outside of the Hearthstone client that still launches games within it, so that the casual mobile player doesn't go in this, has to wait 5 hours because he accidentally or was curious and signed up, and then feels like he's not a competitive player, so the audience. So he's not the target audience of this game, and then quits.
Yeah.
Like that's their biggest fear. Is like the dude logs in, sees tournament mode, clicks it, gets demolished, or is told to wait 5 hours for his next match and can't, and then leaves. They
That's
just
the thing. Like he will not even be able to sign up if he doesn't have like a special rank on ladder.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, we
That's-
should
that's
just
the
use the
point.
ladder as the word. That's the way to filter it. Maybe it's like literally
Exactly.
only legend players. Only legend players can like enter into these open tournaments, right?
Maybe not even legend. Maybe even like high legend players.
Okay.
Oh,
sure.
maybe I don't know. I feel like there's a point where if you've played enough hours of the game, you should just be able to compete. Even if you want to do it casually, and you don't want to be like the number world, like
Still has
number
to feel
one
open,
world
right?
championship.
There still has to
Yeah,
be
it has
open.
to.
I
still
like the
feel
idea of open. I don't think it should be restricted to hot legend or high legend. I kind of like. I mean, if somebody wants to go in there and get beaten up and see what it's like, I'm all for it.
Well,
Some rank
actually,
15 player wants to get smashed. I think
But
that's
within the client,
I
I think
think-
you're gonna lose a lot of people.
I think the
You
open.
can expand on the idea of like tournament mode. You can have like 2 tournaments per week for like high legend players, 2 tournaments per week for like legend,
Sure.
and then you can have like tournaments every single minute for like anybody that wants to sign up for them. Something like that. Like if you had to
Yeah.
like expand the idea,
Yeah.
just like the way Mini Clip has it, like just like sign up and play an 8-man, play an 16-man instantly, like just bam.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about
Click and play.
we're talking about different tournament modes at this point. Like obviously, tournament modes for the non-competitive, non-pro players. Sure, I mean, we should definitely have that. But in terms of trying to figure out the right way to have these open tournaments, I think there needs to, the open aspect to the competitive this competitive open tournament is the ladder. The ladder is really the open. Everybody has access to the ladder. So if you can get to legend, that's the prerequisite. It's just like if you can get past round 1 in a completely open tournament, at least that will filter out some of the players and filter out some of the players that are like taking, maybe can actually compete too. So if they want to qualify, then they just play the ladder to get to it. Because not very many of these open tournaments, like let's just say like a sport like tennis, right? U.S. Open is an open championship, but they have all these qualifiers before you actually get to the tournament itself, right? Like anybody can actually enter into these preliminary tournaments, but you have to play through them. You have to win these preliminary tournaments, and then if you win all the preliminary tournaments, then you get that spot, in the actual U.S. Open itself. So
then we go back to tennis is pure skill, and Hearthstone is.
I mean, that's just like
No, I mean, I understand the point that you're making. Like the system works, but it's.
But
in Hearthstone, you have to run even more events to like equalize the field, or give the people who have been proven themselves repeatedly a head start in that event. If that makes sense, because like if you put them on even playing field and they still lose out in the end, I think maybe I'm wrong on that front.
But at least you're weeding out some of it, and even from the standpoint of maintaining running these tournaments, it's like it's a lot less, potentially less players that are going to be signing up for these things too. So it just might be shorter amount of time that you can dedicate to doing it too.
Or also, if you want to play 1 tournament per week or so you should probably make it Swiss or away, not single elimination, obviously.
Yeah.
Then you just get rid of all the players instantly, and then they would be salty and stuff on Twitter, and that would not be good.
Best of one, single elimination.
Good luck.
Exactly.
Oh,
Good luck, guys. Yeah.
Let's play
Talking about best ofs. Did you see the amount of open cups that are best of 3 and they
Best
are
of
allowed
three,
to allow points? That's pure garbage. Absolutely trash idea to let people that have BO3 cups give points.
That's
BO3 single elim, you get points. Yeah.
Yeah, that's trash.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. The restrictions on these tournaments, if we're trying to talk about what's currently there and we're talking about Band-Aid fixes, I think the restrictions probably need to be a bit higher, or at least the formats need to be across the board. You have to do these formats, and maybe best of 3 is best of 3. Maybe the minimum. Maybe that's what it is. In their
the minimum for what?
Their standard.
For
their standard for having one.
But maybe
Best
for
of 5,
getting golden game as a
Yeah,
reward.
they should make it best of
but not
5.
for getting points. If BO3 is your standard for getting points, not in this game. I don't think.
Yeah, I agree
I don't
with
think that's
that.
working out.
Okay.
Maybe other games, but not Hearthstone.
Okay, so let's move on to prizes. Right now I think the current system is very. So the season championships, there's $100,000 prize pool for that. Winner gets, I think, 20,000, like you said. Generally, it's very top heavy, right? The winners of everything get a lot of the money, and maybe the top. I don't know how far does BlizzCon pay out, or do you know?
I mean, it's not super top heavy, 20k out of 100 for first place. Usually it's 30 or 40% for first place. But that's because they pay out until top 32. While
okay.
BlizzCon is 16 players with 1 million prize pool. And I think they have 250k or 300k for first place. I'm not sure exactly.
I think it's 250 this for the next one. I think it was, yeah. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
It's 25% for first place.
Yeah, last time it was 250k total prize point. Now it's 250k for winning. That's way more.
It's
way
4x basically. Yeah. All right. So what do you guys think of it? What do you think of the breakdown?
I mean, if you get to BlizzCon, it's absolutely great.
You get the BlizzCon, it's amazing. Of course,
it's really
Thanks for the insight. Yeah, but
it's not a lot of money compared to LOL and Dota, but it's more than it was last year. It's tough to talk about prize money. When I say
whoa. Is that a lot of money compared to LoL Dota?
It's not
LoL,
a lot.
Okay.
He
LoL
said it's
has
not a lot. Yeah, no.
yeah, LoL has 1 million for first place. That 1 million is not for one player.
It's
It gets
split between-
divided. Five
Oh, really?
players. 5 players. There are 5
It's just
players.
Dota that has good money in tournaments.
Hearthstone
But it's
has 1 player.
crowdfunded, right?
Okay.
Oh, here we
I was
go.
mistaken
Now I
then.
have the solution. I have the solution. In the shop, there's this little thing where you can open mystery boxes, right? And then when you open those, you have to, like, basically you can only buy them with real money or very, very high amounts of gold. And when you buy them with real money, a percentage of that goes to the prize pool of Hearthstone.
Crowdfunding? What?
And
Are you
what
what is that?
crowdfund? No, but you crowdfund the prize pool so that it can actually reach incredible heights and people
course.
feel more engaged. You know, it's just already been done. And
And should
That's
be
the solution.
continued to be done. That's why I don't.
Well for Dota, right?
I don't understand.
Yeah,
I mean,
it works
they're
out.
doing it. They've been doing it for Valve's been doing it across like CS:GO too, but
Yeah.
Blizzard still hasn't done anything like that. And I think crowdfunding a prize pool and whatnot is. I feel like it's an accepted business model that
Model,
it
yeah.
should be treated that way. Like if you're offering a product for that like for whatever they're buying, then it's nothing. It's no different than selling them like a welcome
Sure.
bundle. It's the same thing.
But
So
you
it-
no, because right now we are crowdfunding the prize pool. It's just that they're not, telling us, well, here, 1 cent of your
yeah,
card
it's
back
not
purchases
transparent.
went
I
to.
guess that's the way it
not-
is, right?
The thing is that by telling you that you're crowdfunding it, the hope would be that, well, number one, you're making it a competitive title. Like, you are definitely shoving it in people's face that this is going to be a competitive title, and when they're doing this, they're supporting the esports scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if their average user cares or gives a shit. So that's one big issue they have to figure out. They probably already thought about that and chose not to do it.
Sure.
But the second portion would be like people actually start caring about competitive Hearthstone in a weird way, because as an extension of buying those things and being told, hey, that goes to the prize pool, here's the event, and maybe they're more inclined to watch said event.
Yeah,
But then again, maybe people caring about competitive could be considered a bad thing because maybe Hearthstone's more fun when you're not taking it too seriously, right?
Yeah,
That's
okay.
precisely one of the issues I'm sure they've already mulled over a dozen
But
times.
that still doesn't change the fact that they can have it available to the people that actually care about competitive Hearthstone. Like, why not, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
so that could be tens of 20,000. I mean, that could be an extra 10, 20,000 for whoever that's playing in BlizzCon. So one of the things that have come up recently, and even in I think your post about Last Call, RDU, is just that Last Call is definitely something to be proud of, just making it there, right? Because you've gotten enough points to even qualify for being the top X number of players. How many is Last Call? 8 or 16? How many are people?
8.
8, yeah.
8.
So top 8. You're basically the top 8 that didn't qualify from the previous 3 seasons. Just qualify for BlizzCon. So that means you guys are like the top players in terms of like this current system and getting points, and that in itself is a feat. And right now, like you guys aren't. What do you guys get for getting there? It's basically a card back, right? And that's it, right? Is it
Card back and a coin flip.
in
You
a
get
coin?
chance, right?
You get a chance.
Wait. The card back is like more than we got last week. So like at least they give us the card back now. I'm very
Last
happy
time,
about
yeah,
that.
that's right.
Yeah.
That is
That's
true.
on the card back.
The thing is that Last Call is basically just a better preliminary. It has the same tournament structure,
is.
but better players overall on
Players
average.
overall, yeah.
Yeah.
On average. Like, I'm not saying that all the Last Call players are like insanely great or like way better than the other guys. No, on average, just on average.
Yeah.
Because like some of the Last Call players also played prelims, like Bunny Hopper.
But
Gypsy.
if you're buying into the format though, it should be representative of who the best players are.
If
because
you're assuming
it's
the
what it's
best
supposed
players
to
will be there,
Yeah,
then
like
yes.
Yeah.
it's supposed to be about the people that got the most points, and the points are supposed to be based on some kind of merit too. No matter whatever luck's involved, the way they've structured it, this should be the best player. So if I was like a writer or whatnot, I should be writing that these are like the best players right now based on the current system.
I would
I think
say
it's
my
fair.
analysis is Last Call is the best players.
Yeah,
I think
I
it is.
agree.
I
I think
think
it's
it's the
fair
best
to
system
say
we've
that.
got for determining the best players. It's not like perfect or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think it's the best because it takes into account the most data, right? It's
Yeah.
like a lot of tournaments and events and matches and ladder games over a long period of time. You really have to put a lot of time and effort in, and you have to perform very, very well, very consistently over a long period of time. Sample size.
Yep.
That's why Last Call just has the best players, I think, compared to these other events.
So
Yeah.
let's make it so all the winners of the other events now have to qualify for a chance at playing against the winners of the Last Call, and swap places. So you guys are all going to BlizzCon, then we make all the other dudes fight off against each other, and call it a day. There you go. I fixed the
Right.
tournament system.
All right. So getting back to the prizes, should last call people get any kind of prize for? I mean, a cash prize for?
Of course they should.
I talked about that in my thing, like
You
not
did.
only like
Well,
the eight.
I kind of know the answer, but I'm asking for the sake of the people watching. And
Yeah, not only
listening.
like the top 8 people should get money. I think they should also like give money to the top 16 or top 32, the people that tried and barely
Yeah.
missed it.
Yeah.
Like Zalae, for example, right? You tried and like barely
Yeah.
missed it, kind of.
Yeah, I like missed like the first 3 months because I didn't understand the system and I didn't know that like last call was a thing that I should be shooting for. And then I like tried for like the middle X months, and then like the last couple months I was like, nah, this is gonna pan out for me. I didn't spike any like points from what is it? The open thing.
Dreamhacks.
the open
Dreamhacks,
tournaments and Dreamhacks, yeah.
Yeah, like I had a bunch of like 16th place, like top 16th kind of thing. It's just you don't get anything for that. So yeah, I just needed things to work out a little bit better. But I tried for a while there and I failed. Like it's super tough.
Okay.
A crazy amount of time and you have to do so well.
Yeah. So last call, you guys agree that should be a prize pool? I mean, should it be a big one, or like what do you guys think? Like,
I mean, to me, last call is like it's a bigger deal than these 128 player things by far in my eyes. These season championships, like last call is like 8 really good players.
it's a culmination of all those
Every
months.
time, yeah.
It's there's all those months kind of resulting in you being able to qualify for this. So I definitely agree
Yeah,
with that.
I think it ties back into the thing we discussed earlier, which is once you're qualified, either it's not over for you or you shouldn't be able to participate in the rest because,
Yeah.
As already mentioned, you qualify early in the year, then you just sit back and relax, which, makes the accomplishment, it's
Oh.
sorry, it certainly makes last call look better in
Yeah.
comparison.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we're all in agreement there, just with last call, and I think the question with pricing is that if HCT is going to be such a big storyline like it was this year, like it was all encompassing. There was only like a few other types of tournaments that were going on that could help supplement for any players that are just playing full time. Should they be supporting like a lot more? Like should they be supporting the top 32, 64 players like in each championship, and just having players be able to make more prize money if they're participating on any events in the HCT?
I mean, as a player, you always want to say, well, they should give more money to more players, right?
Mm-hmm.
But money has to come from somewhere, and it has to be,
Worth it.
They have to feel like they're spending their money well, right? They're a business. They have some obligation to try and make money, right?
What, they have to make money?
So, yeah. So it's tricky.
Well, they could take, let's just say, hypothetically, what if they took 500,000 from the actual BlizzCon payout and they distributed that throughout the rest of the HCT events leading up to it?
I mean, they'd have to
I
restrict
feel
the
like
number
the
of
season
events, right?
prelims are really gambly. Like the way the format works, I think variance is like a pretty big factor. I think who qualifies for last call, variance is a very small factor. It's who puts in the time, who has the talent.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to see more money in last call and less money in other places like BlizzCon and like prelims. But whether there should be more money overall, like, it'd be great to pull money out of a hat and give it to pro players, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
What if we renamed last call to something else? How'd that?
Yeah,
because
the
right
last
now
call
it sounds
actually
like the
does.
players in it just are all
That's a
bad,
good-
right?
that's
It's
a
like
good point.
these guys
When
all
I think of last call, I think of low quality, just like
Yes.
right.
And
Last
that's the
minute they
opposite.
kind of suck.
Just like
Yeah,
wild
right,
card.
did it.
Wild card. Just
Yeah,
like
it's the
wild card.
opposite of a wild card,
Yeah,
though, right?
that's
It's like
right.
these are
Like,
nice to watch out for.
I chose to like not call it like last chance anymore. I call it like best chance. That's why I call it. from now
Yeah,
on.
best chance is what it should. It really is your best chance by far, right?
By the way, like if you make the math, like you have like 1.5% or 2% to like win a preliminary, like a tournament with 200 people that are like very close to your skill. Like what's the chance of you winning that? And then in last chance, you have like at least 12.5 if everybody's like 50-50. And if you're like better than them, that's not the case. So like if you add up all the preliminaries, you have a higher chance to qualify for the last chance than like all the preliminaries together multiply by 2.
Okay, to your point, best chance.
Best
Call it
chance.
best
Twice
chance,
as
guys.
likely, yeah.
Best chance
It
is
is the
coming
best
up
chance.
this weekend.
Interesting.
All right. Okay, so I think we covered a lot of the things I was wanting to. So, and we talked a lot about ways to improve it. Let's see some of the things that we have on here in the notes here.
Like
If
one
we're-
of the things that one
ahead.
of the important things, sorry to interrupt you, one of the
Okay.
important things is like people just like don't realize how the system works overall, and that like needs to
Yeah.
like be fixed for next year. Blizzard needs to like explain it more properly. Like people don't understand how important it is to like make a prelim, how important it is to like make last chance, how important it is to like make BlizzCon. Like I get people asking me like every single Twitch stream, like, do you go to BlizzCon this year? Like something like, do you go to like a grocery store? Do you go to like a movie? Like, yeah, if I have some free time, I'll just go pass by, like just play some cards. Like it's so hard. It's like 4 people out of the entire continent going there, and like they need to like explain it in a proper way so that the casual player that watches Hearthstone understands what they're watching and what the players that play achieved.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah, that's true.
the next thing I actually had was, instead of just like talking about ways to maybe improve it, if we were to start over, like if you had the ability, you're the esport guy at Blizzard, and you've been given the Hearthstone, you were given the job of designing the Hearthstone structure. What would it be like for you guys? Just a high level, obviously not every single detail, because we'd probably be here for hours if every single detail. But what general type of structure would you have?
In-client tournaments.
In-client tournaments, Swiss system. But I would like if their goal. I mean, if my goal at Blizzard was to make it a competitive title from the get-go, probably in-game tournaments. Otherwise, again,
How's
like,
that work? In-game
they need an
tournaments
external-
into what? Into what?
they need an external tool. Well,
Like-
into bigger tournaments, right? That end up qualifying you for those similar events. The idea of points that are averaged over a long period of performance instead of resets for seasons. I don't mind seasonal resets, but I'd rather, like, if I look at, say, Magic the Gathering, right? The way it works is really just here's a metagame and here's people's performance within that metagame, and that's kind of it. And also you have to diversify your strengths. When in Hearthstone, it's one format primarily. I mean, I'd be lying if I said there were no last hero standing, but it's not a necessity. So there's not like you're not forced to be a diverse player to necessarily make it through. You have to know all the classes, but the formats don't change. So, between Swiss, Last Hero Standing, and Conquest, I would probably force people to go through all of those at some point to make it through to the end. That'd be one of the big things, but
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
All right. How about you, RDU?
I mean, first of all, I would find a better format than Conquest to play Hearthstone in, because I think Conquest is like adding some randomness to like an already, like you add randomness outside the game for the picking, how the picking works. Like there's like so many situations, and then you end up playing rock paper scissors for no reason as a player. And yeah, you can flip a coin or like random.org and just not play the mind games, or you can try to like read your opponent and then maybe get mind game. Maybe it doesn't matter if he flips a coin. I really think it's an unhealthy format to play the Conquest thing. Mainly because every single time you pick a deck, it's random. Like in Last Hero Standing, only the first game is like random. And you have some
Right.
situations where you just pick a deck that no matter what your opponent picks, you still have like a chain of events that you can counter him through. And that's what differs from LHS to Conquest. After getting rid of Conquest, I would probably also like only use ladder to like qualify people for tournaments, and then like the tournaments would like give points, have them like twice per week or something like that, so that people that are more involved with the scene can have more time to play them and like therefore get more points on overall. How I would structure the tournaments, I don't really know, because there's so many good players and there's only going to be some winners. So you probably have to like distribute the points not only to the first 3 places, but to like a lot of places if you're planning on like making these tournaments.
Yeah.
Like if you want to make only one per week, you should like give points to like a lot of players, so that overall the people that did better still get more points, even if you understand what I say.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
Because if you give to like top 3 and you have one per week, then it's gonna be a clown
That's
fiesta.
not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Okay.
And that's like just the major part, and like of course like the small parts.
But you'd
can be
still keep
covered.
it, like both of you, actually, you and Noxious, you guys would still keep it with this kind of 3-season, regionally, still split.
I don't think that's the biggest issue that's facing, or that has faced competitive Hearthstone.
Okay.
The way I
that's
would do
fine.
it,
Okay. You
like
think it's
I would
fine?
do,
Okay.
I would do this kind of championships with like a lot of prize money, but I would only give points even to the winner. And like if you win, you get like way more points than the others, and you
Yeah.
have like a big chance of qualifying. And then at the end, I would just like invite the X number of players with the most points. Like you need to like win tournaments to grind them, but winning a tournament is not gonna like be enough to like qualify. Like you also need to like performing some other things.
Yep. I agree with that. Zalae, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot to add. I kind of agree with what's been said. Thought it was pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I generally agree with a lot of it too, but I'm just going to throw this one out here, just for the sake of at least conversation. I think the whole qualifying aspects, you guys are right on. I agree with that. In-game, tournament client that qualifies you for tournaments. But one thing I do have an issue with is just that it's hard to figure out what you're supposed to watch. Like right now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, do I watch American? I guess I watch American, especially if I'm in in the NA scene, and same with EU, right? EU's, I guess there's more EUs probably watching the EU championship, and Asia, like I don't think most of us watch any of that in NA and EU. And so for me, it's like I'd like to see more of an actual tour, like an actual event tour, maybe more of a like this is an idea, and that's not necessarily better, but more of like major tournaments. And the major tournaments can be around the world. Maybe there's one in Asia, there's one in Europe, and there's one in NA, and there is a qualification. There's some kind of point qualification for each one of them. But I'd like to see that sort of either some kind of like emphasis on these type of majors, and having those just be hyped up during the year. But that would obviously eliminate, like we have like 9 of them right now essentially in each region, so that will eliminate like 6 of them, and just having 3 in just what I'm kind of throwing out there. But so it's either that, or I would like to have a tour in each region. So like we have our own NA tour, we figure out what events will hold majors in NA, and we figure out, EU, it's probably Dreamhacks. I mean, Dreamhacks, there's like a ton of them in EU, so you could probably just do Dreamhacks.
So you might even extend them to.
Yeah, I mean,
Might as
there
well
are
just
others,
make Dreamhack the official
Insomnias.
tournament. I
There's
don't know.
Insomnias. I mean, there's all kinds, right? Like you could actually have a tour and then have that funded, and then Asia will have they kind of already have their own kind of thing going on over there with tours and leagues and whatnot. So I think it would be cool to have them function as their own regional tour, and then have that kind of feed into BlizzCon, and then we actually have regional representatives like battling it out at BlizzCon. That more of that. And that crowning a world champion versus just everybody, in the same pool with points, in the end battling it out. It's not necessarily a better representation of world championship. It's just a more interesting one, I think, for us. And these tours and stops would happen at different times. They would never overlap. Like some of these events. And I think the biggest thing for that is just so that we can see. I don't know. We just see more consistent events. Obviously I'm a big proponent of like community run events too, and that sort of bit. But right now I feel like we have moments where there's just too many things happening, and we have moments where there's nothing happening. And if HCC is supposed to be the all-encompassing thing, then we go with that approach. If it's not supposed to be the all-encompassing thing, and and we still have community events and stuff like that, maybe we do go more towards what you guys are talking about, which is, having more of the structure that we have right now, and just having just these tournaments that the ladder in the in-game tournament just kind of feeds into. But I don't know. I just would like to see more, just more things to be hyped up about, because right now it's yeah.
It sounds to me like you want Blizzard to play more of a role in
absolutely.
like running
In
these
controlling
big
what
tournaments.
happens.
Because right now it's mostly third parties running events, and so that's why sometimes there's scheduling issues. Things aren't spaced out the way we'd want, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they are like, obviously they're funding the 100,000 for each of the regional championships, which is awesome, but it's still very, very heavy on just the BlizzCon World Champion. There could be all these other kind of majors that could be funded. In some ways, you could just say they do have these majors in the form of the seasonal championships, but they're not viewed that way. Like, do you really think of Taisa as like the Americans champion? Are we going to remember that after BlizzCon? If somebody else wins BlizzCon, like in the end, we're just still only going to remember the person that wins BlizzCon. And
well, that's kind of the case in most games. I think, like, for instance, right, Magic the Gathering, I'll go for that example because that's the best I know. has a culture of remembering not just the first place, but it's a culture that completely built itself around, notice, like making it to a top 8 of, say, regional pro tour, just a pro tour, is just as good as having taken it. Like very often, if you've made it there, you're just a very solid player. What's super interesting too is that, we're talking about the whole, qualifiers and tournaments and seasonal resets. Like in MTG, in Magic the Gathering, they have these championships online, like the championship series that you can win and qualify for to get like qualifying points within the game. So they have that. And Blizzard tried to emulate it with the ladder system, and they've attached points to ladder finishes, but they haven't added in-game tournaments. And because the ladder system is flawed, it invalidates a good chunk of the whole online, ladder qualifying process. So like they don't have it completely wrong, but they just need to take the reins of it all, I think, a little bit more. Like take everything under their umbrella and maybe monitor it closer.
Yeah, I mean, another
Is the gist of it.
Another idea that's probably very unpopular is just having a pro tour. Like not everybody can qualify for this thing. Like maybe there are some events like the U.S. Open in tennis, right? Like there is like maybe one major that people can qualify from an open just aspect or qualifier or whatnot. But the tour itself is really meant for the pro players, people that are funded, people that can actually fly out to these events. And,
well, that's
right.
That's not what pro tours are in MTG though. Like they're mostly the way pro tours are is really just you won in a big event. Here you go. I mean, if you're in the Hall of Fame, and if you've won like a really really huge event like BlizzCon, you're automatically reinvited, for instance. Like that would be the type of stuff that that could help, I guess, add the storylines and consistency like across time. Like the fact that Firebat isn't even like in BlizzCon is just kind of and Osaka, right? The fact that these two guys are not there is just like, what? Like how is that a thing? Like we get that maybe Firebat he could choose to decline. That's fine. Like that's perfectly okay. But the fact that it's not even a possibility.
There's no persistence from the past championships at all, right? So
there's actually actively it's actively inconsistent. Like if you win, all of a sudden it's not worth your time.
It's not worth your time to go.
Right?
Exactly.
Osaka World Championship did not try to qualify because he won. He is worth money, and it is not worth his time to try to qualify because the qualification system costs so much in terms of time.
Exactly.
That's what I was upset about with Open Cups.
Yeah.
Wait, so because he's already worth a lot of money, like
it's worth more for him to get sponsor money a team affiliation and stream and get a notoriety than it ever is for him to bother with the system they've got in place. So if they ever want to bring back the storyline of, say, Osaka and Firebat, they would have to invite them automatically. It's kind of what
the system is like. If you win, you're knocked out of the system because the system.
And you're never caring about it again. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it does devalue like our. It just makes you forget about what happened the previous year. Like remember last year, I don't even think they were originally going to bring Firebat to the event. It wasn't until maybe like a last minute decision that they decided to have Firebat be part of the BlizzCon event itself, where he came out with a trophy or whatnot, right? And they had a real quick interview with Rachel or who, I think it was Rachel, right? Yeah, whoever it was. And he was basically passing on the torch, right, to the next champion. And maybe they'll do the same thing with Osaka. But that's like the only thing that we see in terms of the previous year or any kind of legacy. And it's not right.
It's a card game. So the problem is a lot of people would be upset. They'd be like, well, the top league doesn't, top league team doesn't get automatically invited to the finals or whatever it is, like top 16 or even close to qualifying there. But the truth is this is a card game. So you must understand that the consistency issues that taint it don't taint something like League and Dota. So you might hate it as much as you want, but it is just a fact about the genre that you can't expect those guys to just keep making it over and over and over on their own. It's just consistently unlikely.
Yeah, agreed. All right, I guess the last thing we've been talking about this for a while, but the last thing we have is just, I think one of you guys wanted to talk about, or actually I was going to open up viewer Q&A and then ask a little bit about what we think is coming up in BlizzCon. So for those of you that have any questions, let me look at on Twitter real quick. Go ahead and tweet those questions to @ChanManV, or you can ask them in the Twitch chat. Maybe Noxious, keep an eye on Twitch chat, see if you see any good questions.
Oh, God.
I know, right? Sure. But I'll start things off by asking what you guys think in terms of BlizzCon and Yogg-Saron. Are they going to ban Yogshrine, given that like all these events that are being in, like Batstone starting it, and I think a lot of events that are been planned or announced even just the last week are also banning Yogshrine in Tuskar Totemic.
Yeah.
Will Blizzard ban Yogg, I guess is the question for BlizzCon.
I don't think so. I think Hearthstone's going to be untouched for BlizzCon. I think Yogg is what they want, what they think is best for Hearthstone. That's my guess.
Okay. What's your take, Noxious?
I think, like, if they don't touch Yogg, because like one of the things that we need to remember about Yogg is, it matters sometimes and it's crazy and it's flashy, but truth is, like, shit like Tuskar Totemic is more likely to be an issue than Yogg. In the games where it matters and it does something stupid, it's a lot more impactful. I wouldn't say impactful, but like it turns the tide of the game just shifts completely, and it's less noticeable because it doesn't it doesn't do Doom into Twisted Nether into Call the Wild, Savage Roar. Like, it doesn't do that, but it does equally stupid things as far as the outcome of the game. And I would like if before BlizzCon they only made it so it's basic totems. So if Yogg doesn't get changed because they feel like, it's still a flashy, cool, awesome moment creating card for end game situations and it creates storylines, sure. But Tuskar doesn't create storylines, so fuck it. Just change it. It's just a boring card that needs to be toned down just a bit. Not
So
even
we answered-
like.
Okay, so
Answered this question very differently. I guessed at what I thought they would do, which is not at all what I want them to do. Of course, I would like to see some changes. And you answered what you would like to see them do.
Of course, yeah. I think they will nerf something or change something. I
So you
think
think they
right
will
now
change
one of the
something?
big issues is like the community just doesn't want to watch Hearthstone. Like the vanilla Hearthstone, people are bored of it. Viewership's gone down over time, and people want something a bit different. And I think Blizzard would do well to modify, even if just for a show of goodwill and show that they're listening and communicating with people more clearly than here's the arena fix. But competitive play, you feel guys is in danger. Here's what we do to improve it just before the big event, which, because they're doing it, would also legitimize the winner of that year. Because you don't want to be the winner of this year's BlizzCon if nothing changes. You just don't want to. You're literally.
Take it.
I'll take it. Yeah.
No, but
I'll
you take the
take
money, but
I'll take
that's not what I mean.
You're right,
My
it's one of the less good years. Like, you'd rather win last year than this year, maybe.
Sure, but I'm not saying winning the money's bad and you'd rather lose and just finish and be like, yeah, dude, anyway, this game sucked. That was shit. This winner, no, you don't want to be there. You'd rather win. But point is, it's not the win you'd like to get just because of the overall sentiment in the community. And I don't know, Blizzard could make that title less cheap by changing just a few things before BlizzCon, if that makes sense.
Yeah. RD, what do you think?
I think that they're just unpredictable. Like, I cannot predict what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I'm guessing. I agree.
Oh, God.
What's your best guess, though?
Like, my best guess. My best guess is that they're gonna touch Yogg and Tusker before BlizzCon. I'm not sure if they're gonna touch them before Last Call. Probably not. But
That's
before
like this
BlizzCon,
week. That's like this weekend, right?
No,
last call is
8th of October.
Oh, it's
for
that's
Europe.
right. That's right. Okay, yeah. So you got a couple
Like,
weeks. Yeah.
I hope that if they make touches, they don't just make touches like one day before our tournament and be like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Now that you submitted
Here's your
decks,
patron
these
deck
cards
you
work
spent
differently.
months
An
practicing.
update? What? like okay, I'm getting in last call update. Holy
Force
crap!
of Nature was reverted to its previous state. We now believe druids need a bit of help to compete with the
Yeah,
shaman
yeah.
overlords.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think there's a 50% chance that they're going to change it. I think it's
Yes.
and the reason I think so is because it's a little risky that something very just one of those Yogg situations do happen where the classic Zeus playing against Druid or Zeus playing against Mage. Zeus got all those minions on the board, and the Warlock has no cards left. And he plays Yogg, and somehow he's in this incredibly advantageous position. I think they run the risk of that looking really bad. It's not even just like within the community. It's looking bad for folks that are just being exposed to Yogg. It might look fun and cool, but if somebody's actually watching on the Twitch stream and they just look at the Twitch chat, they'll get a very interesting reaction, or they might even like see how the general public is reacting to that sort of thing and not have a very positive reaction to it. And then it'll start becoming, when it happens at BlizzCon, it starts becoming possibly more of a mainstream thing. Like there are a lot of writers, there's a lot of media at BlizzCon, and some folks that might not even, you know, like the Polygon people, you know, like lots of general gaming media will be watching that Hearthstone finals. So I think they run a little bit of risk of that. We saw at Batstone that when you eliminate at least those two cards, well, we eliminate a lot of other cards too, but just eliminating Yogg or whatnot, you know, you do see more plays. You know, you see more decisions being made, some cool plays being made too. I mean, a few more cool plays too. There are a lot of plays being made, even just with Yogg, games with Yogg involved too, leading up to it at times, or even just trying to minimize the Yogg. But having that disastrous moment happen on a large scale, I think is very, very risky. And if they're going to change it, so the decision is like if they're going to change it, period. If they're going to change it in 2017, they should change it now. Like they should change it before.
Either they don't, or they do it like right now. Basically.
Like they should definitely do it before the biggest event of the tournament. And honestly, like changing Yogg, like let's just say they made Yogg irrelevant. It's not that bad for you guys. I mean, it's in the main. I mean, it makes a big difference to the Druid, but you guys would adjust like very quickly. That Druid deck's still good, even without
much,
Yogg.
I don't think.
Yeah, and that Mage deck. I mean, the Mage deck might. I don't know. The Mage deck might take a bigger hit, but that Druid deck is still damn good without that Yogg in it. Yeah. So
Tusker would be like a big. Like if they would nerf Tusker, it would be like very hard for players to find good Shaman builds. So like they should give us like 2 weeks or something if they want to nerf the Tusker.
I don't think it gets like terrible, but it gets worse. But I don't think it gets like to the point where Shaman just goes, well, fuck it. I guess I'm switching off my Spirit Claws, Maelstrom Portal thing from below deck. Like I still think
from below might lose some value.
It does, but I don't think you stop necessarily playing Tuskar. I mean, it's still okay within the decks that maybe not the aggro Shaman, because aggro Shaman wants the 3/4, the Manatite draw, the Flame Tongue, but the mid range Shaman can still, you know, find room for that card.
Of course, like
that's for sure.
If you would change Tusker, you wouldn't just leave it as a 3/2. You'd make it like better statted, and if you make it better statted, maybe you can still play it in the mid range Shaman. Just better statted and summon random totem from basic totems, maybe something like that.
It's a 3/3 or a 4/2.
3/3 probably, but
3/5 for 3. Jesus Christ!
It's still really good. I mean,
it's 2 bodies and a class of Flame Tongue. I disagree, dude. I'm not.
I actually don't even think it needs it. I don't even think it needs a
nerf
statue.
Shaman, guys.
Yeah. I don't even think it needs a statue. I think a basic totem would actually be a decent change.
It's just fine as a basic. You've got Spirit Claws, you've got Maelstrom, you've got Stone Claw.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I think it would be okay.
F Shaman, I'm on board.
Okay, so we've got
one
some.
Of the things well, I have a question in the chat that's interesting. I think Zalae might be able to comment on that since we talked about N'Zoth Warrior earlier. Thoughts on card like Abomination, and why is it never played?
Because when you play a minion, your opponent's generally controlling when and how they kill it. So, Death Rattle and A-Bomb, your opponent kind of has more control over when and how it goes off than you do. So, like, if you have a bunch of 2 health minions, you trade them into the A-Bomb. So it's just, 5 mana, 4/4 taunt is extremely inefficient. And the Death Rattle's not that valuable because of how much influence your opponent has on when it goes off. Also, N'Zothing back an A-Bomb, like, maybe they just kill the A-Bomb and that 2 damage kills you. So it's not that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess Baron Geddon is just the better proactive alternative, which is
you control when Baron Geddon goes off. They control when A-Bomb goes off. That's the difference, right?
Yeah. Same issue with Chill Maul too, but Chill Maul is just a little harder to kill than A-Bomb being at 4.
And sometimes it does nothing but be a 6/6. I mean, you don't have to have dragons.
Yeah, true. Okay, great. Crazy Gunner tweeted something. Are tournaments less enjoyable to watch due to a lot of games coming down to insane RNG? I feel that skill is winning less. So the question is, are they less enjoyable to watch?
There's a lot of factors.
It's not fun to watch. It's bad to play. In my I think it's more fun to watch Hearthstone than play it sometimes, right? Like
really? No,
I agree.
I think it's way fun for me to play.
Good on you, dude. That is why you're in the last call and you keep persevering. But I know for a fact that a lot of people who used to play the game more casually and just enjoy it, just now get too frustrated by it.
There's only one time I like to watch tournaments. Like I like to watch tournaments when I play in a tournament and like I win my round and I wait for my to finish. That's like the best time to like watch tournaments.
Oh man, nobody's vain here or anything.
Everybody loves RD.
Yeah.
No, but there's like a lot of issues why tournaments like have become less exciting to like watch sometimes. It's not only RNG. Like some casters pay some of the issue. Like for example, when was the last time when the casters have not hyped up a game? Like every single time a game is played, the casters hype it up. You can look at ACT if you don't believe me. Look at ACT and like pay attention carefully. Before every single game, they will say, "Oh, this game is gonna be great," and after every game, they say, "Oh, this game was like insane, intense," even if it wasn't.
Yeah, but
And then when you actually have a game that is insane and intense, you're not gonna like make the viewer feel the same thing if you always push the same words. You just like nullify the value of words. Same as majors. They call every single tournament a major tournament, when in reality it's just like another invitation or just like another tournament. I think that they should like use the term major or like pro, or they should change it like something like pro
or
tour.
something, yeah.
And like this would like give like significance to some tournaments and to some games from some tournaments. The current way it is, people just don't know what to care about, and everybody's just like saying, "Oh, this player is really great. This tournament is really great.
Yeah.
This game is going to be really great." And I'm like, "Yeah, cool."
Nothing's great. It's
Yeah.
dishonest, and it turns people off.
Everybody's a winner.
I don't want to be lied to about how exciting and awesome every game was, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
yeah, and it's a little conflicting for the caster, you know, like because the caster is supposed to try to make even just boring games at least somewhat interesting. Like it's also their caster's not doing their job too if they make a game look boring too.
Well, you could just
So
talk
you
about
could
something
just-
that's interesting to buy the
Right.
time. Like, you know, you don't have to say this game.
Like
was
something that
super
has
interesting
nothing
when
to
it
do with
wasn't.
Hearthstone.
You can just,
I mean, I've
you know, just
done
talk
some-
about something. You can talk about
Yeah.
something Hearthstone related. Talk about some tangent. Talk about what could happen that could make
Sure.
the game interesting,
Yep.
but ultimately the game wasn't. Right?
Yeah.
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 You don't have to bring it up, the thing. Like you bring it up only
Yeah.
if the game is good, not every single time. But if you like pay close attention, they will bring it up every single time, and that like gets like on my nerves because it like dilutes the value of like the games. And then
That's
if
fair,
every single
yeah.
time they dilute the value of like the games, they dilute the value of tournaments because they put a stamp of like major on every single tournament that is played. Like, come on, guys.
Does
Like,
it have
we should have some-
$10,000?
And that's kind of
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I was getting at a little bit with just having this tour model, because it's very unclear as to what we're supposed to watch, and I think we're all clear that we're supposed to care about the Hearthstone Championship Tour events, but the thing is that you can't, you know, they still have to be interesting, you know, and right now we're missing the name values. We're missing a lot of other things too that play into having very interesting Hearthstone tournaments.
Look like a great idea. Like for example, let's say that we have like a lot of dream hacks. Like we're gonna have even more next year with the American ones.
Yeah.
They choose one dream hack and they call it a pro tour. They like they can give some more prize pool so that it stands out from the other dream hacks. And then by calling it the pro tour dream hack, people will care more about that one, and people might be more inclined to like travel to that one. And then as a player that doesn't have the opportunity to go to every single dream hack, you'll just go to one dream hack. And then you'll play in the biggest one, and you'll like have some good quality competition. And say for Insomnia, they can pick one Insomnia, and that's one is
There's like the
bam,
majors basically. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, they can just pick like 3 events that are from good organizers that make multiple events, and just make those like super big. And people care about those. The people will be more inclined to like travel to those. And then it will also have like some bigger prize pool, and like the viewers will also like appreciate it more and like watch it more. And so that everybody wins. But by putting the major stamp on every tournament, like people don't care. Like I won Dreamhack Summer, which had like I played every single round against a pro player, and like it had 100 pro players and 100 Swedish players or something like that. Like insane amounts of pro players, like probably one of the hardest tournaments ever. And people are like, yeah, whatever, just argue on another Dreamhack. Who cares? And like Evangelion wins Dreamhack Valencia, again, super stacked field. A bit less stacked than summer and a bit less stacked than winter, but still super stacked field. People don't care. They're like, yeah, whatever. You want
I
another?
mean, if we're
because
talking, okay, so we're talking about viewership number, and like again, I'm playing devil's advocate here more than anything else. And I'll throw this one to you, Zalae. Should we go back to having the big streamers casting events? Like, should we go get Crip again, casting events, and
Oh, great.
and
Expensive.
what? Expensive?
It's expensive. Yeah,
Not
it's
just for
expensive to
them,
have
so,
but
but
for the streamer.
I mean, if you want to get, okay, it's expensive. Okay, sure.
Are there practical issues there? Who should we have casting these things? I don't know.
I'm
Whoever
just
people want to see.
no,
I
no. I'm
guess.
just like going back to it because right now I feel like they're focused on, people who are more inclined with for casting, And that's
Right.
definitely, I can completely understand the approach. And in fact, I think some of them are getting, Fireball was mentioning they're going to get trained, like they're having like a speech coach come in and help train them even more to be, just more broadcast friendly and whatnot. But that does, I don't think that's helping necessarily with viewership. And the reason is because as somebody that's organized an event before, there's always an issue with competition with views. Right, that's always going to be an issue. It's an issue on Twitch, but particularly in Hearthstone, because if the Trumps and the Kibblers and the Mamazes or whatnot are streaming while you're having a tournament, that's just terrible for you because those people are still going to be watching them unless your tournament is just something the most hyped up thing ever, and for whatever reason they're still taking a few thousand from you regardless in best case scenario. So, something that used to happen way back when is people would just hire these people, either invite them to tournaments or actually just have them cast tournaments. And that way, it gives your event an even better chance of getting views. So
Sure.
Because the players, because of the openness, we're not necessarily, it's very hard to have consistent big name players in these tournaments, like a large volume of them particularly. Then the casters are obviously one way that can be controlled. You can actually go and pick these people and take that strategy. Now, is that the best thing to do? That's really the question. Like, what do you think is actually better? Having more views?
It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
I like the idea you're bringing up. You're right. You're saying, well, we can't control the star quality of our players, but we can have star casters. But of course, casters are expensive, and as soon as they realize that your whole strategy is to have these star casters, they're just going to charge more and more and more. And so it gets to the point where there's always going to be this tension between, like, is it worth it to pay them this much and that kind of thing. And also, is Kripparrian the guy I want casting a Hearthstone tournament? Like, he's a good caster. He explains some stuff well. For me personally, I would rather watch Fireback casting things because he really does a good job of analyzing the plays, and he points out some cool, interesting stuff that you might not notice just watching it, or that almost everybody will not notice just watching it. And so that's why, for me personally, as a pro player, I'm more interested in the pro perspective casting. I understand other people have different perspectives and want different things out of their casters.
Yeah. Artie, what do you think?
I don't think the best solution is to just buy out the competition. I think you should try to make a tournament. I think that you should make a tournament. You should make a tournament that great that the people that are normally streaming would like to go there and not try to interfere with the tournament and stream at the same time, or make them care more about the competition, or if not them, just make their fan base care more about your tournament, and then you make them lose by not coming to the tournament and enjoying themselves. And I don't know. I think that the current way it's made people really want to stay home and stream rather than go to tournaments sometimes.
I think I would love for that to happen, but we're just talking about, this is a space where streamers are the biggest personalities in our community. So when you're talking about tournaments that don't have known entities in them, and some of the casters are known entities, but they're not the entities that generate views, like large views. You're never going to get around that. Like, how can you hype up a tournament that doesn't have any name value right now? That doesn't, even other sports that have two franchises that are kind of boring, like let's just say basketball teams, just two teams that are that don't have very flashy ways of playing. They get bad ratings. They get bad ratings for a reason. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if we're going to be fixing that problem anytime soon by still having the same player pool. A lot of people that are doing well in these tournaments, they just happen to be folks that people don't know because they're not big streamers or whatnot, and people are disinterested in that. It's not fair, but that's the reality of it, right? So how do you even do that, or do you? That's the question. How do you even get your tournament hyped enough that it can actually, cause Amaz viewers or Kripparrian viewers or whatnot to not watch them while they're streaming? And, obviously a very cool thing for them to do with community is just not stream during that time, and that's a really cool thing for them to do to help support it. But I don't know how you actually try to compete with them.
Well,
but are you doing something for the community at that point? Because people are kind of voting with their eyes, right? And so by denying them that option to watch a Maz or Krip or whoever famous streamer at that moment, are you benefiting the community by forcing them to watch this tournament that they would rather not watch? They'd rather watch a Maz or Krip or whatever? Maybe not.
Well, so here's one of the things, like like these guys are influencers, right? Like on a very fundamental level. If they if they choose not to stream and they maybe tweet about the event and they're watching it, let's say, then that already gives the viewers who are going to watch them some incentive to look at it. Now, one of the big problems is if these guys aren't excited about watching the event, then they're not going to do that. And I think one of the big things we need to do is make sure that everybody who's involved in the Hearthstone community is actually excited about the game. And you do that by making it better. Because right now there's a huge drop-off in how much people care about the game. Even the people who played like 12 hours a day just care about it less and less. And it's just kind of a grind at this stage, right? They'll stream 4 hours and you can tell just like they're logging on for the stream because it's a consistent product. They have to deliver to their viewers who are consuming it. But that's it. There's no passion. And one of the big reasons for that is the way that the game is handled. Not on a competitive structure level and whatnot. That's one of the aspects of it, but just on a design level. And that'll go back to other discussions we've had. But the point is, if these guys care, then they wouldn't even stream because they'd rather sit down and watch it.
Or playing it.
Not happening.
Or playing it, right?
Or playing it, sure. The same point would be that they just care about the event. And right now it's not happening. And that's like beyond just trying to buy them out. Like, you just want to make them want to watch the game. And I feel like...
I agree.
It can be arranged.
I would love for that to happen. It's just that.
Yeah,
that
like
is
it can happen. I think it can happen. I think it can. I think the game has what it takes to make people who are involved in it stay passionate about it. Instead of it just being a grind, they literally subdue themselves in just doing because money's coming in. Like, it's just.
But that doesn't. But again, that doesn't change the competitive. Like these tournaments, like if they don't have, like what you're trying to say is that we're trying to or insinuate is that the tournament, just the contents of the tournament will be something that's just amazing enough with
no, the game is amazing enough. Just the game, that you want to watch that game's tournament. But you know what I mean? The players right now, nobody gives a shit.
But the players are a big part of the game that's being viewed, right? And if it's
well, you're talking about overlap in viewership, right? Like now we're not talking about the same thing. You're talking about, say, your parents staying home and streaming instead of watching it.
No, but I'm just saying, even if the game was more interesting, I still don't think the viewership for tournaments are going to be better if you have, Joe Smith over here playing, Kevin Brown over here, like somebody that you don't even know. Like, people still aren't going to watch it. It doesn't matter how good the games are.
Yeah, but we talked about the whole players being invited pro tour. I thought we were addressing the casting stuff. So as far as like the overlap in time between streamers, and stealing views away from,
it's not really stealing views, but it's just like competing against them.
Stealing, so that's like another point entirely. And I think that's what I was addressing more so than pro tours need to happen, because they do, right? Like, I'd love something like this to be in Hearthstone. But if that happened, then maybe people would have an incentive not to overlap during the main event.
Or maybe they would just they'll go and play and not really like cast it.
But isn't that what's happening now? I mean, why aren't they doing it now?
Because like there's too many Dreamhacks, there's too many Insomnias, there's too many tournaments. All are having the major tournament thing written on it. Yeah. And like people don't know which one to go to. Like, it's like super expensive to go to one of those tournaments. Yeah. And like it's more worth it to stay home and stream, because the tournaments don't get even that much exposure most of the time. Right. And you don't know which one to choose, because there's like one every single 2 weeks or something like that. And if Blizzard would choose 3 or 4 and smash the Pro Tour stamp on them, then like people would like know which one to go to, which one to care about. And then the others, if you have extra time, you can go to them and whatever. But I'm talking about the big streamers would just go and play in them, not exactly cast. I don't really think that they should hire the big names to cast all the time, because being a big streamer doesn't mean that being a good caster doesn't translate exactly to that.
Yeah. Okay, well, how about one more question? It's been a long show, so last one. This is from somebody that asked a question last week that I promised I would ask this week. So Ruds asked, guys, what are your favorite cards from One Night in Karazhan? What are you? Maybe pick one favorite card.
I've got one. Arcane Giant. That one's fun. It's powerful. It's fun. Yeah. It's you kind of get to do some planning. It's deck building. Also, well, I've got another one in mind too, but I guess just one.
Oh, but I mean, go ahead. You can say.
Okay, Curator's also
your
really
second.
Fun. I like these deck building cards. I like cards that give me something to think about. Build a new deck, and how does this change everything? So Curator and Arcane Giant are kind of interesting deck building cards to me.
Okay, awesome. Are you?
I will choose Ivory Knight. It's like
Oh, okay, cool.
is Discover, is like Paladin, really good card, solid. And the only issue with Discover is that it's too random and your opponent cannot really know what you pick. And like what Ivory Knight does is like it tells your opponent what you picked unless you're at 30 HP, and then like it intensifies the mind games actually. So it's just like a really solid, well-designed card that I actually like from One Night in Karazhan. My biggest issue with Karazhan, also, like if I may add, if it's not a problem, is neutral cards are just awful. Like Blizzard just went on making good class cards, and just neutral cards are just like the waste and the filler of the set, and I don't think that's a good idea. I think neutral cards should like be niche in some decks and like played sometimes, not like Shredder and played in every deck, but just niche cards that fill some roles inside some classes, but that other classes can also use, like maybe cards that 2 or 3 classes can use, something like that. But I think just focusing only on class cards is not a good idea.
Okay. Noxious, favorite cards?
It's pretty hard to say. I mean, I'm gonna go with I want to say Cat Trick or Cloaked Huntress. I really like the secret theme in Hunter, and Cat Trick gives Hunters. I think it's actually one of the more powerful secrets they've got, but it gives them a way to, I guess, take advantage of a situation that they couldn't before, because like spells were never relevant for Hunters. Like you can't give them counter spells, so they found a way to give them some secret that also activated over spells, and it made a ton of other cards better. Like every secret that exists got better because Cat Trick came up, and Cloaked Huntress as well. And I really like that package. You know, I think Cat Trick would have to be one of my favorite ones.
Okay. Mine, it's probably just more personally, just because I do play Priest. I think Priest of the Feast is my favorite, actually, in this set, just because it's a card that a lot of people say like Priest that didn't need that card. And I kind of disagree, actually. I think Priest did need a card like that. Now, do they need other redesigns? I think there are some things that need to be redesigned, but that is a card that I think Priest did happen to need. And I mean, I've definitely seen the effects of it, and I actually just enjoy that it does synergize the way it does. Other classes have at least access to cards that do synergize with spells, and Priest never really, outside of Pyromancer, had anything like that, especially something that's more thematic with them, healing them. So that's my favorite. Okay, well,
that's cool.
I think that's gonna be it for the show, man. We went long, man. We went way long on this one.
That was a good show.
So covered a lot of things. Thanks for everybody for writing in their questions. And a real quick shout out just to some of the folks from Patreon and iTunes. Big shout out to Papa Docs 101 from iTunes for leaving a 5-star review. If you want to help out the show, you can leave a 5-star review. If you're an audio listener, it really helps out the show, helps people find the show if they search for a Hearthstone podcasts. And then big shout out to our patrons. We do have a patron for Valuetown. If you want to support the show at patreon.com/Valuetown. Devin Westfall, Dan Simborski, Eric Cobb, William Bullock, Paul Hatchman, and Vincent Gobel. Thank you so much for supporting the show. And let's do some shout outs, guys. So RDU, man, you're our guest. Thanks for coming on, talking. I mean, just like,
best team in Hearthstone.
Best team in Hearthstone. G2. Okay.
Yeah.
Representing. All right. Any other
Yeah.
shout outs or thank you? Where can people find you?
Twitter, mostly on Twitter.
Okay,
And
that's right there.
on Twitch, obviously. I stream almost every single day. Don't stream that much now because of last call and stuff, but on Twitter, I announce when I stream and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So follow on Twitter. Twitter's on the overlay here at G2RDU. Awesome. Zalae, want to do some shout outs? Where can people find you?
Yeah, shout out to Team Luminosity, best team in Hearthstone. And,
Oh, man. We got NA.
and
Maybe in NA, not in Hearthstone.
Oh, here we go.
Luminosity, best team in Hearthstone. And also check out my stream, twitch.tv/Zalae, HSZALEHS.
Okay. Awesome. Noxious?
Yeah, just shout out to Complexity, the best team. No, never mind. We're not. Just shout out to Complexity. The guys are fucking awesome over there, and it's getting cooler and cooler. I mean, it's just. I think it's a pretty cool environment right now. Like the teams are resettling. The competitive Hearthstone is undergoing a bit of a facelift, just overall, and I'm hoping it gets better and better. I think Complexity is going to be around at that point. Luminosity should be as well with these players, and G2 for sure. There's no doubt. So shout out to all of these teams, I guess, for just sticking to the competitive scene, even though it seems like it's undergoing some tough times.
Yeah. And for me, big shout out to the three of you guys, Noxious, RDU, Zalae, for doing the show with me today. It's definitely some great topics, and we needed to have like that just that discussion, given that there's just been some things here and there, especially with HCT. So thanks for that, and everybody else too for writing in. You guys are awesome for watching the show and whatnot. And for those of you that might have missed part of it, you can find the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV shortly after the show. I upload it right after, so it'll probably take like 20-30 minutes, and you can find it there. And then the audios will be available tomorrow morning or afternoon, depending. iTunes always take the longest, all right? So if you're not on iTunes and you listen to audios, they'll be available probably tonight, but iTunes always takes like 12 hours or so to get on there. So you can check that out then. And if you can find my channel at twitch.tv/ChanManV, and we'll be doing, I do another podcast on Thursdays that's more about just talking about TV shows and movies or whatnot. So I do that at 1 p.m. You can check that. It's called Spoiler Alert, and we're talking about BoJack Horseman if you like that TV series. But that's going to be it, guys, for Value Town.